Hi, coaches. Welcome back to Big Rule the World. I'm Coach Allen. Today we have the last one before we get back into our series. We did the college football playoff teams before, breaking down how you can learn from their offenses. We're getting ready to do the NFL Final Four teams as well. Today is just so you want to be a head football coach. This isn't offensive line specific. It's just a video I felt was probably good timing. I don't know how things are in your area and our neck of the woods over here in Virginia. I've been shocked at the just moving of coaches right now. We're having a lot of head coaching jobs open up. Two right near me. Trying to think, is there only two that's really opened up? Yeah, only two. They're within an hour of my house, which is usually my radius for, I'll consider applying. Probably three within an hour of my house. So, big question is, so you want to be a head football coach. All right. Now, a little background info for me if you're just coming up across this video. When I got my first head coaching job, my only head coaching job so far, I was 24 years old and I had just been a JV football assistant. My entire 6 years of coaching had been JV football assistant. And that's partly because we have a very solid staff at Buckingham High School, my alma mater, and I was doing a good job. So there was I was doing a good job. We never had coordinators move. We never had position coaches. Very rarely did they move. So me and a JV football head coach worked together for 5 of those 6 years and did really well. I think we went as defensive coordinator. I won 40 games, lost 5, and tied 1. Very weird tie. So pretty good. Now, I of course had aspirations, wanted to be a head football coach. I applied the first time I got interviewed to be a head football coach. I was 23. First time I got a job was I was 24. I've been in the interview room, just being blunt. I've been in the interview room for the smallest of the small, which was a single A position in the state of Virginia when I was 23. I got a 2A position with about 600 kids when I was 24. And I was in the interview room in the last year for a job that was a 3A job and a job that was a 4A job. So I've been finalist. I've been, heavily considered, and I'm not even 30 yet. But there's some things you need to know, and some things I worry about with coaches moving out that I don't think our young coaches have really learned yet. Is you got to pay your dues in a certain sense, and you got to understand it's bigger than football. This isn't X's and O's stuff. So my biggest tips. My tip number 1 is expect the crap jobs. You got to have a plan for them. When I talk about crap jobs, I mean laundry. My head coach does laundry every night. Okay. When I was an assistant coach, I helped my head coach with laundry all the time. That's where we got to talking. That's where I learned a lot, was I was helping with laundry all the time. I was checking kids' grades. I was helping fill up water coolers. Now, if you're the head coach, you're going to have to expect you have to find a way to get that stuff done or get that stuff assigned. For my head coach, when I was an assistant, it wasn't a big deal. We had great staff. It was easy. You didn't have to assign stuff to them necessarily. They could see stuff and get it done. My mom used to get mad at us when I was a kid all the time because she said, I shouldn't have to tell you to do this. You should just see that it needs to be done and do it. I had no idea what she was talking about until I became a head football coach because, just being frank, I've dealt with assistants before. Just being very frank, I've dealt with assistants before who they see stuff needs to be done, they won't do it. Or they think it's beneath them to do laundry or line a field or fill up a water cooler. They don't want to take the time out to do that. And you say, well, don't hire those guys. It's kind of hard. Sometimes you don't know until they're on your staff. I dealt with small school ball, man. We get some guys who aren't very motivated. I was used to working in a spot where everybody was motivated, where everybody showed up to workouts. And we weren't required to, but everybody showed up to workouts. That's just what it was. So be used to that. Be used to having to get the delegating and everything. Tip number two. Um, Tip number two goes with relationships. Be prepared to develop relationships with people, your admin, your teachers, your your players' parents, your community. We did stuff. One of the things I sell in my head coaching binder every time is we do stakeholder meetings when we first get hired. We do stakeholder meetings with the faculty, with the admin, with the community, with the booster club. And that's stuff that I did when I first got hired was did stakeholder meetings with all of them. I did a parents meeting every year. Even shortly before I got dismissed, I was doing a parents meeting for the upcoming year because I got dismissed late. Um, and you're just doing constant meetings and trying to form relationships. You got to get really you are the face of the program, and you got to get parents. In my opinion, you have to give parents a reason that they would want to send their child to you. And if you are aloof, if you are not trying to do that, if you're trying to be sort of I won't say toxic, I'll just say, transparency goes a long way. Transparency goes, and I've talked to some head coaches who are like, well, I don't want to hear parents complain. I don't want to get into argument with them about playing time. I never did. Never had to. I never had to get into an argument about that stuff. Um, Basically, we were able to discuss what we need to discuss. And a lot of times, if you open it up and you tell a parent, this is what I'll discuss and this isn't what I'll discuss, this is what I won't discuss, then it gives you grounds where you can end the conversation. You've set up the grounds for what a conversation would be. And a lot of times, I felt like with those parents' meetings, we came out with positive outcomes. That was my hope all the time. But you got to be prepared for that stuff, guys. You're not thinking about that if you're an assistant coach right now. You're just thinking about you want to be the head guy in charge on Fridays. And then my third tip is define what you want your program to be. Define who you want to be. Like, how's your program is ultimately going to represent you somehow. Okay? I mean this completely. Give you a good example. My old school. My head coach was there. We were tough. We were gritty. We didn't talk a bunch of trash. We were a pretty clean football program. That represented our head football coach. Tough, gritty, well respected. They get a new head coach in, and I tell you what, man, those same kids I coached on JV were different kids. And then now, they've hired a guy who was on our staff over there, and they're getting back into their old Sam. We're going to bust you in the mouth. We're going to play physical football type ways. We're going to be a respectful team. That's really what they do. One of the things that I was happy about at Chatham High School, where I was our last year. We had the 14th winning season in school history, 4th playoff season, and we developed this sort of cardiac calves is what I nicknamed us, because we won 4 games from being down or tied in the 4th quarter. And that was pretty wild, because that was not something that Chatham High School did historically. Historically, we'd have to be up to win a game. We'd have to be up pretty much through the whole game to win a game. And now, we're developing this comeback mentality, this never quit mentality. Now, as I said, that was one of the things that I tried to put was always competing, never quitting. And, I got to see that culture being established, at least there when I first got started. I got to see that culture. I would have loved to have seen that culture. Unfortunately, stuff happens, new admin, all that good stuff. I would have loved to have seen that culture all the way through, but establish what you want your culture to be. Establish who you want to be. I'm a big culture guy. I'm a big PJ Fleck guy. Establish what you want your team to be about. And this is any sport, guys. Establish who you are, create those relationships, and be prepared for the crap jobs. That's X's and O's out the window. Establish who you want to be doesn't necessarily have to reflect your X's and O's. We're a tough, gritty team, and we ran air raid. Go figure. Now, I will admit, my air raid, my high flying stuff was all about establishing a culture. It was pretty easy to come to our kids and get them to play, and we ended up going from 40 kids coming out first day of practice. My first year on the job to my fourth year having over 80, which pretty big jump. Establish your culture. Part of that for us was the air raid offense. It doesn't have to be for you. Establish a culture that you're comfortable with, that you feel fits your community and you can roll with. I think you figure out what fits that community by getting in there and establishing those relationships. Okay. And I'm telling you right now, just as you establish a relationship, or you listen to a parent or you listen to a booster club, okay, if a booster comes to you and tells you to run the wishbone offense and you are not a wishbone guy, that does not mean giving them respect and listening to their points doesn't mean you have to do it. Okay. And I'm not telling you listen to everybody, but give them a window of opportunity. Okay. Whether it's at a booster club meeting, whether it's, not just shooing them away when they want to talk to you after a practice one day when you're getting ready to leave. Okay. Be respectful, be a good person, and things generally work out. All right. I'll see you next time, coaches. We're getting back into offensive line play and, what offenses did in the NFL to be successful and what you can do based on that. So I'll see you next time, guys. Remember, bigs rule the world.